Okay, shalawam. All right. First off, I want to say all praises to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, Rakha, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS, and to the elect doing the work in sincerity and in truth. Shalawam. Okay, so I have this article here. As you can see in the title, it says Merkel, who's a German Chancellor, Angela Merkel. It says Merkel warns of worldwide financial crisis. Okay, now this is something through the spirit from the apostles of GMS on down that we've been speaking about. We've been warning about. Why? Because it's prophetic. It's in the scriptures how there will be a worldwide financial crisis. Matter of fact, let me get that now since I'm mentioning it. This is Zephaniah 1 and 11. It says, "How ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchant people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off." Okay, now we know Maktesh was a merchant city, which is similar to a Wall Street. Okay, and this also goes for this time now because you got this guy Trump, who's doing who recently enacted his trade tariffs against countries like China and even Europe and Canada. Okay, and Merkel was basically saying through all these tariffs that's going on, it'll lead to a worldwide financial crisis. Okay, all right. So I'll read a little bit of this article here. It says German Chancellor raised the specter of a new global financial crisis as she warned of the potential fallout from a trade war with the U.S., saying tariffs on European cars would be much more serious than levies on steel and aluminum. Okay, and I believe in Germany, it's gonna hit them the hardest because they have like the best cars. Audi, BMW, all the good German cars are considered one of the top cars out there. So if this madman Trump is gonna put tariffs on those vehicles in Europe, it's gonna hit Germany the hardest, man. Okay, all right, and this is all biblical prophecy as far as a world financial crisis. All right, so it says, I'll read this paragraph. It says, as a leader of Europe's biggest economy, you see, in Germany's Europe's biggest economy. As a leader of Europe's biggest economy, Merkel underscored her resolve to fight for the survival of the post-World War II global institutions under attack by the Trump administration. At the same time, she renewed her counterattack against U.S. criticism of German exports by saying that the U.S. has a trade surplus with the EU if services are included. This is taking on the counters of a trade conflict. I don't want to use the words that go any further, Merkel said in her speech, but this is the sentence that Ron bringing this article out. It says, it's worth every effort to try to diffuse this so that this conflict doesn't become a war. Okay? Now what most people don't realize or don't know, that trade wars, they're the precursors for world wars, man. All right? And that's something that she wants to avoid, but it's not up to you, bitch. It's up to the Most High, man. The Most High wants this war to go down between these nations. And according to biblical prophecy, it's going to go down. Okay? So my point is, a lot of people don't realize that trade wars, they lead to real wars. That's the same thing that happened in World War II and World War One. Okay? And World War III, which is prophesied to happen, is no different. Okay? Yeah, see, it says what commentary? Our last trade war was a global disaster. This time it won't be any different. Okay? I wanted a specific paragraph from this article here. It says, I'll read this. It says, is a trade war easy to win? Far from it. A trade war today would be much more damaging for the U.S. than the trade war of the 1930s, as exports today account for a greater proportion of U.S. gross domestic product than they did on the eve of the Smoot-Hawley. Okay? And the Smoot-Hawley was an agreement that they enacted to avoid trade wars. All right? So yeah, that's basically anything. Anything, if a stock market crash today, it's gonna be 10 times worse than it was back then, because there are more moving parts involved. All right. Okay, so it says if our trading partners retaliate as they have threatened the European Union's as they have threatened, the European Union says it will target blue jeans, orange juice, Kentucky bourbon, and Harley Davidson motorcycles, among other products. So basically, Europe is America, or Trump is putting tariffs on Europe, and in turn, Europe is putting tariffs on America. So that's really going to hurt the economy. There's no winners in tariffs when countries do that to each other. And you got Trump. He's doing the same thing to Canada. He's doing the same thing to Europe. He's doing the same thing to China, amongst other nations, man. Okay, so there are no winners in trade wars, man. Okay, it says at an international level, history teaches us another thing. The more countries trade with each other, the less likely they are to end up at war. Okay, like I said, the precursor to any world war or war in general is usually 99% of the time that it has to deal with tariffs, because that's what you call an economic war, man, and that's what's going on right now. It says the less likely they are to end up in a war. So now you got less countries trading with each other, and more of them are putting tariffs on each other. What is that going to lead to? That's going to lead to World War III. All right, and it says in the face of rising nationalism and authoritarianism worldwide, it is in America's best interest to maintain the rules based free trade system that creates a powerful incentive for peace. But too bad, that's not going to happen, man. The Most High doesn't want peace. The Most High wants war, and that's what's coming to America. Okay, all right. And I got one more article here. It says one of the biggest U.S. trade wars of the past had a tragic consequence. Here's what happened. In the 1930s, a U.S. trade war escalated into a real war, which was what? After the 30s, World War III started in around 1939. Okay? World War II started around 1939. All right? So I'm going to read this paragraph here as well. Where is it? Here it is. It says the plan faced a lot of opposition, but ultimately became law. This is speaking about the Smoot-Hawley. Yeah, the Smoot-Hawley tariff. Okay. It says the plan forced a lot of opposition, but ultimately became law. The act raised tariffs on American imports to nearly record levels, but instead of reviving the economy, it actually exacerbated the Great Depression. Okay, so it made it worse. And this is in the 1930s. I believe the Great Depression was either 1929 or 1930. It says nations across the world were striking each other with tit-for-tat tariffs, and that's that's what's happening right now. Okay, you got I believe this week Trump's tariffs on China. He enacted them. It went down this week, and then you had China do the same thing on them. I just read in the other article that since tariffs were put on Europe by America, Europe is going to put tariffs on whiskey, on Harley Davidson bikes, and something else. Okay, and the same thing with Canada. So these other countries, they're doing these tit for tat tariffs right now. It says European countries put a tax on American goods, which slowed trade between the U.S. and Europe. That made it harder for the U.S. to crawl out of its economic slump. And despite what you see on TV, we are in an economic slump. Okay? It says nationalist rhetoric was heating up, with countries blaming others for their struggles. All of that eventually escalated, turning a trade war into a real war, when World War II began. That's why after the war ended, nations formed the World Trade Organization to regulate international trade in the hopes that nothing like the global trade war of the 1930s would ever happen again. Okay? All right, but that's gonna that is gonna happen again, man. That world war is gonna happen again, and we're at the brink of it. Okay, we're at the brink of that third world war. Let me get this scripture and I'll close it out. Okay, why? Because it's prophetic, man. You see, what Esau doesn't realize is they can't stop prophecy. All right, they can't stop prophecy. Here it is. It says, this is Revelation 9 and 12. One woe pass, one woe was passed, and woe we know means a destruction, okay? Or in this context, it means war. Okay, so it says one woe is past, World War One, and behold, there come two woes hereafter. I'm sorry, two woes more hereafter, and those two woes was World War Two, which came to pass, and we have one more, which is World War Three, the war to end all wars. Okay, the war to end all wars. I believe it was Einstein that said World War IV is going to be fought with sticks and stones. Why? Because they know that World War III is going to be the last war. It's going to be the war to end all wars with the weaponry they have. Okay. All right. So yeah. So that's pretty much it. I want to bring this article out about Merkel warns of worldwide financial crisis, which is biblical, which is prophecy, man. Which, starting with the apostles of GMS on down, we've been saying that through the Spirit. All right, we've been saying and warning our people of this coming uh, war. All right. All right. So that's pretty much it. Until the next show, shalawam.